The Premier used this week's sitting of State Parliament to try to get her government moving forward again by promising a listening offensive. The finger of blame's been pointed at Anna Bligh for the Labor backlash at the federal election, and she's confronted internal disquiet about her leadership. The issues came to a head at Monday's caucus meeting. Political reporter Melinda Howells was at Parliament for the fallout.
Monday night's caucus meeting provided a dramatic prelude to this sitting of Parliament. The Premier emerged after 3.5 hours of talks with her MPs to declare her leadership had not been questioned. But a short time later, Anna Bligh was contradicted by her own Parliamentary Secretary and caucus spokeswoman Judy Spence. Ms Bligh says it was a misunderstanding.
The Premier couldn't tell the truth about fuel tax, couldn't tell the truth about privatisation and couldn't tell the truth about electricity prices. So let's see if the Premier can tell the truth about leadership. Was the Premier's leadership raised at yesterday's crisis caucus meeting of the Labor Party?
Were there issues raised about how we could do better, including myself as leader? Of course there were. Of course there were. But was there a question about my leadership? Was there any doubt about any challenge? No.
Ms Bligh tried to get back on the front foot by announcing new ways that she'll get out and about with voters. But the first attempt to explain her new ideas failed when a Dorothy Dixit fell foul of the Speaker's ban on the word you.
Premier, you've stated that the government can do more to listen and understand the issues facing Queenslanders. Can you please advise the House of any ideas presented which you intend to adopt?
I would ask the honourable member to rephrase the question. This practice of you is coming in again. I should have warned the House this morning that I will not tolerate it. Rephrase your question or I'll rule it out of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Premier, you've stated that the government can do...
Righto, the honourable member from Regional.
Second time lucky.
Mr Speaker, it is a program that some members may have heard of. It's called Walk a Day in My Shoes. Quite simply, it is a challenge to elected members of Parliament to spend a day in the shoes of a worker, particularly in an industry where they may not have much familiarity with, and particularly in low-skilled employment, low-paid employment.
Anna Bligh is calling it a listening offensive.
Mr Speaker, I've had a range of suggestions, everything from working as a traffic controller on one of our major roadworks for the day, Mr Speaker, working in IT for a day. Aged care workers have called in wanting to have people experience what it's like in their industry. Many, Mr Speaker, I've had the member, I think, for Beaudesert, I think represents Boona. He'll be interested to know a gentleman from Boona has been on my Twitter suggesting that he'd like the whole team to come down and chip some Scotch thistle out of his property for the day. And I can understand the challenge he might have.
The Premier seems to think that she can make up for 12 years of political deafness by listening for a day. Of course, nothing will change. She's made that clear. They'll listen to, but once again, ignore the people of Queensland. Listening without action is as hollow as promises without delivery. It counts for nothing, Mr Speaker. Queenslanders have seen straight through this listening offensive and they find it offensive.
The Premier will head to North Queensland next month and listen and govern from her Townsville office.
Mr Speaker, it's critical that as our state's leaders we all get out of the southeast corner when we can and engage with Queenslanders statewide. I know that in the state's north people can sometimes feel a long way away from government, even though as Premier I make every attempt to get out and about. Mr Speaker, I think we all know from our experiences at regional parliaments that spending a week living and working in a regional city is very different to visiting for a day or for less.
The Main Roads Minister and Thurrangower MP Craig Wallace tried to prove his North Queensland street cred.
Mr Speaker, it's lights, camera, action this month as our new webcams go live. I drive them roads plenty of time, brother. Plenty of times, brother. I'm out on the roads all the time, brother. And I'll keep driving them because we're spending a record number on our roads, Mr Speaker.
Some other ministers are already hitting the road and heading to regional forums on the burgeoning coal seam gas and liquefied natural gas industries. But the complex technology remains a mystery to some.
I wish to advise the House that the Minister for Primary Industries, Fisheries, Rural and Regional Queensland will be absent from question time today. Minister Mulherron will be attending the CSG/LNG Community Information Forum in Miles.
It was a tough week for the government, but the Premier accused the opposition of running out of material by the end of it.
I refer to the member for Brisbane Central, Grace Grace, and her active role in canvassing the backbench and liaising with Labor heavyweight Big Bill Ludwig. Can the Premier advise if the member for Brisbane Central has a special role in coordinating this new listening offensive?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, well, we know that Thursdays is always a dry old day for those opposite. But they haven't even got to 11 o'clock before they hit this, before they really hit rock bottom.
They run out of beer, start on the metho.
Speaking of rock bottom,
Mr Speaker, finally I'm very pleased to confirm that the international supergroup U2 will be performing at Suncorp Stadium on the 8th of December this year. Indeed, the Deputy Premier is very pleased that Bon Jovi will also be playing at Suncorp Stadium on the 14th of December.